Welcome to American Education FM, everybody. I'm Dr. Sean Brooks. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. This episode is going to be dedicated to the previous board meeting this past May 15th in the town where I live, which is the Talawanda School District in Oxford, Ohio. The amount of lies, unprofessionalism, and illegality that is taking place here is overwhelming. And I want to emphasize the lies very quickly. The school district and the people who work in it, and certainly are attempting to run it, and they're running it poorly, they are pathological liars. And here's what I mean by that very specifically. They lie so frequently that they don't even know that they're lying anymore. Or they don't care that they're lying. And they don't care that one thing that actually gets done is the exact opposite of the thing that they tell the public. And you're going to hear numerous audio clips from this board meeting here regarding all of this. But just to review very quickly, my latest Substack is available, and it does not surprise me that the latest Substack does not have nearly the views that the first one did regarding the case of Principal Jason Mers and the allegations against him regarding pedophilia, and of course, restraining a minor, which theoretically one could chalk up to kidnapping if they wanted to, cornering a child in a bathroom stall, to then, of course, molest them and then, masturbate in front of them, apparently. With all of that said, in predictable fashion, in the board meeting, like I said in the last episode on Friday, the craziest of the crazy came out of the woodwork. And the pedophile apologists came out of the woodwork. You had individuals, again, openly admitting that they've worked with him, that they, are fine with him apparently, and whatever else. And then you had, again, members of the teachers' union show up, actual teachers themselves, being the rather lazy-looking individuals that they look like, and they're all just applauding like seals every single time that someone says something positive about the district in the public comments portion, or again, one of the co-presidents of the teachers union even spoke and read this completely concocted speech, which was clearly not written by him. It sounds like it was written by Facebook posts from random people. And I have a pretty good idea as to, again, who actually wrote it, but it doesn't matter. The point is that they would have done well to stay quiet. And again, getting back to the Substack really quickly before I mention what happened last week. In the Substack article, the first one that I wrote, of course, it garnered something like 22,200, 300 views, which is great. I'm glad that people read it and they saw it, including individuals that don't even live here, because, of course, it was rather sensational, so to speak, and individuals enjoy that kind of thing. It's not my cup of tea. I enjoy more, thinking articles and things of that nature where you actually have to investigate rather than sort of like the tabloid-related stuff. With that said, I fully understand that the tabloid-related stuff is what gets people, it's what gets clicks. It's what exactly gets attention. The second Substack article that I wrote is far more detailed and actually far worse, because this is where the actual tentacles of the octopus start to stretch out well within the local police department in the town where I live. So again, as I mentioned in the last episode, just again as a basic order of operations, if anybody's curious, if any kind of allegation against an adult regarding the sexual abuse of a minor is discovered, there are a number of different avenues that individuals can take to tell people about what's really going on. Clearly, a 911 call is the first one that you make. It's one of. Because again, the police department would end up with paperwork. You would have a report, hopefully file a report with all the specifics, the dates, the names, all of that information. However, in this particular case, regarding the son of a parent who sends their child to this school district, in the case of the former principal here, Jason Mers, who has not been fired. He's just been placed on paid administrative leave. With that, of course, he'll probably resign because he'll have to, but at the exact same time, the child himself brought out these allegations in a therapy session last summer. And then, of course, they made a report a month or two later, a couple of months later, the Butler Behavioral Health Center, to CPS. Once a report goes to CPS, depending on the severity of the situation and the urgency of the situation, a decision has to be made by CPS. Do they investigate themselves and keep it in-house, or do they immediately outsource it to the police department? Now, of course, having talked to CPS myself, I know the answer to that question given the severity of the allegation. Severity of the allegation dictates that it is the police department that immediately has to find out. Well, as it turns out, as I've said before, the police chief in the town where I live, his name is John Jones. He specifically, his wife is the principal of one of the three elementary schools, and still is. The other two principals of the other two elementary schools were the Merses, Jason Mers and Molly Mers, a married couple. So do you think that the administrators, two of which are married to one another, before Molly Mers left last summer, is it possible that those three elementary school teachers would talk with one another, if not be friends with one another in a small town when there's only 3 elementary schools? Yes. And then, of course, if they're all talking to each other, then they're getting together with one another, which means they're getting together also with the chief of police. So if CPS makes a call to the local police department and the local police department takes such a serious call about a serious allegation, detailing exactly who this is, where they work, and the whole thing, what do you think the police chief is going to do in that situation? Now, we know what they're legally obligated to do, but we also know that police departments are corrupt. All working environments can be corrupt, depending on the kinds of people who work within said environments, and of course what they believe. We know they're also manipulated by the media. They're socially engineered to believe everything on their television. They believe all of it. They're not the most awake people in the world. Certainly not necessarily the ones who, again, run these police departments. You've heard me mention our county sheriff, Richard Jones. I mean, he thinks planes hit towers on 9/11. He thinks Israel's our greatest ally. These are the kinds of, again, Fox News watching brainwashed individuals who just go along to get along and actually believe everything that they hear and see. But when you tell them something that counters their belief system, or even counters their, again, personal, affection towards someone else or an entity or what have you, then they must feel like their back is in a corner, so they either don't act or they act inappropriately. Now, I'm going to find out what happened with the Oxford Police Department and who took the call from CPS and what they did and what they did not do. But the reason that I'm mentioning all of that is because at no point from last week's meeting, where the mother and an advocate met with the HR director and the director of student services of the school district to formally request in writing, with a signature, an outside Title IX investigation, that after all of that, including the alleged student services director crying in the meeting, either because they got caught or because they, because they actually sympathize with a parent, whatever it is. The point is the HR director knew the day before this school board meeting where you're going to hear audio. And at no point, apparently, did anybody have the professional wherewithal to tell the school board members or to tell the superintendent to make sure that the public stay quiet about the entire issue, because if they don't, and they actually come out and applaud and support this principle or whatever, they will look incredibly foolish. They will actually look so stupid that it should panic every parent in the district, because they will be showing everybody that they either don't care what's going on or they do know what's going on and they still don't care. Or I should say a third option, that they leap before looking. that they make judgmental comments and judgmental reactions to things instead of sitting quietly or not even participating or not even going at all. Now, on top of that, I would also remind those teachers who showed up to support all of this alleged pedophilia and unprofessional behavior by the people who run the district. You are in the minority. The school district consistently says you're the majority and that a very loud minority, i.e. me and other people, who are holding this district accountable with oversight, that we are not the majority. Allow me to remind everybody what the vote was for the last levy that failed. The school district lost by 3,000 votes. It was over 6,000 against and 3,000 for. Wrap your head around that. I hope that people understand that the majority voted against the levy, which means the majority voted against the school district. All the townsfolk who voted, the vast majority voted no. So you are actually not in the majority by a long stretch. Certainly not now. And given your, again, breakdowns, which you clearly had in this meeting, which you fell right into my trap, and I would like to thank those individuals. Because your behavior is as predictable, again, as sunshine in July. It's and candles on a birthday cake. You can quite literally be led to the slaughter by anybody, and you won't even know you're being led to the slaughter. So these people, ladies and gentlemen, American school teachers, school employees, administrative staff, they're all panicking, and they're all positively reacting, apparently, to the fact that this principal, regardless of how long he's been here, 10, 12 years, whatever, that he was accused of this, and they apparently don't care. Or they think that it's a lie. The evidence is overwhelming that it is not a lie. And they don't seem to understand what happens, again, in a court of law when a criminal charge comes down on a person. Endless people are subpoenaed to describe, again, all of their involvement with all of this. Individuals at CPS, Butler Behavioral Health, they'll all be on the stand testifying, saying, yes, I took the child's report, and they'll have to tell the truth. And we know, again, what they have reported, that the report is credible, which means that's what will be testified to. That will be on the record. But you've heard me say it a million times. American school employees are not well educated, number one, overall. Number two, they're not well read, certainly. Number three, they're not well versed in any legal process whatsoever. And number four, they're so unintelligent on all of those issues, they don't even think to look them up, to even come across the fact that they might be wrong about their belief system. This is also a school district, again, that has endless open records requests being placed against them, and they can't for the life of them figure out why. They keep complaining about it, meeting after meeting. We're getting too many open records requests. We just wish people would stop. If you say that, that means you're guilty of something. That means you're hiding things. That's what that means. That would be like a row of people standing again in front of a house that has a locked door and saying, no one's allowed in this house. No one's allowed to come in, even if it isn't a private residence. Say, for example, it's a public building, and people are just lined up outside saying, you can't come in here. The question everybody else should ask is, what's going on inside that building? What's going on inside that organization? The simple admissions that these people make imply guilt. But they're not that bright. They've also violated FERPA, the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act, time and time and time again. Too many to count. Let me allow people, again, to get a hold of this one, which is a FERPA violation. A few years back when the levy failed, the last levy was on the November ballot. and again, overwhelmingly failed by 3,000 votes. Two parents who are residents of this town who send their children to the school district, who they themselves graduated from the school district. So again, you can sort of see this inbred behavior that exists. Well, I graduated from there and you're going to go there too, and this is the best place to go to school. Only a fool would actually believe that, and only a fool would send their children back to the same place that they know is garbage, but again, they don't think it's garbage. Either way, I digress. What they ended up doing is they contacted the school administrative office, and they made an open records request with the treasurer to obtain the names and addresses of every single parent who has children in the district. Names and home addresses. Now, why would they do that? So that they could take their evil propaganda, telling everybody how to vote in November, in particular voting for the levy, along with other left-wing communist issues and high taxation issues, and then all of that, again, paperwork and pamphlet nonsense would find its way into every single parent's mailbox. The school district violated FERPA when they allowed those two individuals to have all of that information of the public. You can't do that. You just can't. You cannot get a list legally of every single parent and their home address based on the fact that their students are in that district. And they thought that this would, of course, work in their favor. And they thought wrong. In fact, it ended up pissing off more people than they can possibly imagine. Because they were simply saying, how did this stupid little left-wing communist organization get my address? How is it that they sent this right to our mailbox? Where did they get all of the, again, address information? Somebody, again, let them have it from the school district. And I know who that is. It's the treasurer, Shauna Tufalski. That's a FERPA violation. It's a FERPA violation for every single home address. Think of how many FERPA violations that would be in a school district that has one high school, one middle school and 3 elementary schools. It's absurd, but these people, again, they do this without even thinking. Their blind hatred is quite literally blind. They're just shooting in the dark and just running in one direction, not knowing they're violating the law every single time that they do it. They also, of course, have a technology issue. And they aren't breaches. The word breach keeps being misused. They're not technology breaches. It's technology negligence. It's stupidity. And it stretches actually way past their entire Google platform that they've been misusing this entire time with all their calendars being wide open and everything else. It stretches actually right into their own use of student emails and their own use, again, of student logins and what those passwords and logins actually are. They're all generally the same, as it turns out. Most of these student emails that are associated with American K-12 school districts, the email has the last name of the child in the email, followed by the first initial of their first name. And then, as it turns out, each one of those students has an identification number. It's a 4-digit identification number, apparently. And those 4 digits are, again, associated with that student, but they're at the end of that particular email. And then it's at talawanda.com or something like that. Point being, this was brought to the attention. That particular, again, vulnerability, it's not a hack or a breach, it's a vulnerability that was figured out by individuals, and it was brought to 2 board members' attention the morning of the board meeting. Now, the board meeting is at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time in the evening. This was brought to 2 board members' attention via email from Scotty King, husband of one of the board members, Dawn King. And he sent this to Pat Mead and Matt Wyatt, 2 board members. Because remember, in previous board meetings, these individuals always say and always said, you need to bring the problem to us. Bring the problem to us because we'll fix it and we'll talk with you and we'll keep the public away so that there's no vulnerability again, and you bring it to us and we'll help out and blah, blah, blah. Tell us first. That's exactly what Scotty King did. And these idiots fell for it. They did the exact opposite of the thing that they said that they would do regarding, again, any technology vulnerability. They said nothing. They never replied to Scotty King. So Scotty King showed up to the board meeting and he said, I emailed 2 of you today and you didn't get back to me. So now I'm going to tell everybody about this vulnerability. And he did. And you're going to hear that audio here in just a second. And then the very next day, the superintendent got on the district's website and put out this huge long memo accusing Scotty King of wrongdoing. And he quite specifically says that no administrator was told about this in advance. I have the memo right here. Again, Superintendent Ed Thoreau is arguably one of the dumbest humans on the face of the planet because he doesn't understand that he's a pathological liar or he just doesn't care. These people don't know that what they say and what they do on the record during board meetings can and will be used against them in all investigations going forward. They just keep talking, and you've heard me say it. They would do well to not say anything, but they can't help themselves. They literally believe they can talk their way out of it and gaslight individuals into believing that what they heard in a board meeting from a citizen is not true, so that what I say is true. Because I'm the superintendent, therefore, by default, you're just supposed to believe me. Now, with that aside for a minute, which I'll revisit, they, of course, spend time in the public comment section, 2 individuals rather, bashing me, which is hilarious. They fell right into it. And like I've said, and like you know, those who scream the loudest have the most to hide. And then their rationalizations that they use as to why people should somehow believe them is, again, astounding. One of the individuals who decides to attack me, verbally, whatever, is too funny, was the co-president of the teachers union. And he's reading this predetermined memo that was probably written by a couple of local nitwits who are equally as stupid as he is, including a former board member. See, these people are so dumb, they don't understand that when they repeat what other people write, when it's already been written, either on social media or in emails or whatever, that people like me can detect whether or not they were actually the ones who wrote it or not. I know that these 2 people didn't write any of this. They're not that smart. But they certainly didn't write it. And all they were doing was just copying and pasting what other people have said about me, and then they're just believing it and just doing whatever they're doing. But again, in the middle of all of this, there was, again, at least one individual who supported the articles that I wrote. Or the one article, because the second article didn't come out until Friday after the board meeting. But then there's another story which is equally as disturbing. And it has to do again with the entire nonsense of the diversity, equity, and inclusion bullshit. And a grandfather gets up to the microphone, and you'll hear him, and he'll openly discuss how his granddaughter was picked up and thrown to the ground during a wrestling match where she was on the wrestling team and she was being, of course, told to wrestle boys. Now, you know my take on this. Why on earth would a grandfather allow his granddaughter to be in a wrestling tournament or even on a wrestling team when she's wrestling boys? Doesn't matter if she wants to wrestle or not. You simply look at them and you say, wait a minute. You're going to be wrestling boys. I don't want boys touching you. I don't want them grabbing you. And I certainly don't want them physically hurting you because they're stronger than you. So some of this is the grandfather's fault, clearly. But at the same time, it highlights the stupidity of everybody else in the room and everybody else, again, participating in sports in school who allows such a thing to happen. In particular, in the sport of wrestling, where strength and body mass clearly has an advantage as opposed to something else. I mean, clearly men have more advantages in those avenues biologically than women. That should go without saying. But wrestling? You've got to be kidding me. Again, I wrestled on this middle school's wrestling team the first time they had a wrestling team. I've told this stupid story before. There was a girl on our team who wanted to wrestle. And we would go from school to school to school, and most boys didn't want to wrestle her. They were like, I don't want to wrestle a girl. I'm going to hurt her. I don't want to hurt her. I don't want to get yelled at. And the coaches of other teams were like, yeah, don't wrestle her because we don't want you to hurt her. That was back in the early 90s when people still had some common sense. And there were even moments again when the other teams didn't want to wrestle this girl. So she would get out there during a tournament or during a meet, and she'd get out there on the mat waiting for her opponent, her male opponent, to come out on the mat, and they wouldn't. And the coaches would on the other teams again wouldn't allow anybody to wrestle her because again they didn't want her to get hurt. One particular time I was at a meet where they were allowing her to wrestle in place of me. I wasn't hurt. I could have wrestled, but they were allowing her to do it. And no one wanted to wrestle her, and she started crying and ran off the mat because no one wanted to wrestle her. Therefore, no one wanted to hurt her, but she didn't know that. Now, she did wrestle a boy, I think, at least one time in a meet, and she ended up winning. She was a strong gal. But again, it doesn't matter. You don't put minors in situations where they could get hurt. You just don't do it. Playing sports against your own sex is one thing. That's fine. But all of this gender-bending, blurred line bullshit, this is the problem. And these people, ladies and gentlemen, they believe it. Now, even with that aside, which you'll hear audio of that in a minute as well, this school district has a serious diversity, equity, and inclusion problem. In the state of Ohio, every school district was told, sign off on this form, this legal document, that you're not going to be engaging in diversity, equity, and inclusion, nonsense, literature, language, or anything in the future. Anything that even seeks to discriminate in any way. Because all of it was against the law to begin with. But again, they're not well versed in the Civil Rights Act, and they don't know what the law is. They can't spell law. So what happens in this board meeting? Individuals who work for the district, including one of the elementary school principals, this new gal who took over for the wife of the alleged pedophile at the building where she worked in the past. This young gal, who again, it's just so sad how they hire these people and where they find these people, but she can hardly comprehend anything. DEI is throughout the entire presentation. And throughout her entire presentation, which I'm going to spare you from, she attempts to brag that student achievement and that their learning gains, quote unquote, that student learning gains were made among 50 to 51% of the student population. She quite specifically says it. That 50 to 51 of the student population met their learning gains. That's not a good statistic. That's an F. And what are their learning gains? What constitutes a gain? Is that an extra point on a test? Is that 5 extra percentage points on a particular task? Hell, most of it's pass-fail at the elementary school anyway. It's not a brain buster. If you show up, you pass. If you don't, you fail. That's basically it. If you're breathing, you pass. If you don't have a pulse anymore, you fail. Which means the people running these buildings at that level are probably not the sharpest knives in the drawer. I know that's insulting, but as it turns out, it's a statistical fact. Just read Thomas Sowell's book, Inside American Education, and that's kind of the way that it goes. It's not that way with all of them. Some of them care about rigor. Some of them care about academic success. They're not using children as pawns to raise money and have bake sales and play dress up and ring toss and all this other horseshit that goes on. Which it's overwhelming. And this building principal is selling that as if it's somehow a good thing. It's not. You have children who can't read, who can't write, can't spell, can't comprehend. This is the problem. But there's DEI language throughout all of their presentations. And they don't know that that's a civil rights violation now. and that civil rights violations are going to be filed against the district so that they lose federal money because they're not adhering to the document they signed. That's against the law. These people, they just don't listen. They don't make any changes. They don't do it. They dig in like retarded ticks because they don't know what else to do. They're operating on a belief system, not facts and knowledge. It's like growing up and believing fairy tales your whole life. The person who believes fairy tales will never come to grips with the fact that the very things and subject matter and history that has actually occurred in front of us on television or in movies or in newspapers or whatever, that even that is a lie. That's why it's multidimensional warfare. It's multidimensional psychological warfare. How many different layers and floors in a building of brainwashing can you get someone to actually believe? The further down they are into how deep into the brainwashing they go, the less likely they are to crawl out of it. This is why American education as a system has failed. Look at everything that they've normalized over the last 10 years, 10, 15, 20 years plus. Complete and utter insanity. So those are all the problems going on. And that's just within this school district. And make no mistake, it's not just this one. It's all of them. Almost every single public American school district behaves just like this. And it really does throw itself up against a backstop mentally, as far as they're concerned, of them not wanting to be wrong. They're incapable of being impartial. They're incapable of not participating in a conflict of interest. They're incapable of those things. But what they don't understand is that they lie loudest when they lie to themselves. And then they quite literally scream and shout at the top of their lungs and applaud like seals very quickly, thinking that they're actually doing a good thing, when in fact they're displaying, for the vast majority of anybody looking, that they have a serious problem. Mentally, emotionally, physically, socially, you name it. Now let me get into the audio. I'm going to play the public comments section straight through, and I want you to hear these people. I want to review this briefly too before I play it. You know the definition of false equivalency. I've brought it up here numerous times before. Two things are presented as being equal or comparable in significance, impact, or moral weight, despite clear differences in their nature, scale, or context. Again, it's designed to mislead people into believing that, hey, we have straight A's, or this, that, or the other, and I'm an excellent school and I'm an excellent school district, but oh, by the way, there's a pedophile over here running the place. So, one outweighs the other. That all the good stuff that happens outweighs the bad, so don't pay attention to the bad. That's what this school district is literally trying to get people to believe. There's also, of course, the entire business of contradictory claims and laws of non-contradiction. You cannot have two opposing viewpoints look at the same issue and have them both be correct. One is more right than the other. And when you combine all of that with those who scream the loudest have the most to hide, well, that gives these people away. But again, their foolish nature and their low IQ, unfortunately, drives them to a microphone where they believe that they can talk their way out of it. Or that, again, they can contradict themselves on a stage as board members and say, well, I didn't say that, that didn't happen. For example, board member Matt Wyatt, in this most recent board meeting, openly stated that he didn't call people trifling people, half-wits, or losers. That he didn't say that in April 17th's board meeting. It's on the record. It's on YouTube. It's in my Substack article, the actual audio of him saying it previously. Again, they don't understand that what they say on the record, they can't go back and say, well, I didn't say that. Yes, you did. You're insulting members of the public. Just keep your mouth shut. But they don't. Because again, they think they can talk their way out of it. So again, I want to set the table here visually so that you can again kind of imagine this in your own head. The room has a group of teachers in it that are generally sitting in the middle and up front. You would call these individuals the bootlickers of the school district because the vast majority of school teachers never attend board meetings. They do their job, they go home. Those are the most effective school teachers. The ones that are unioning up and, licking the boots of the union and giving their paycheck to a union that is claiming to protect them and blah, blah, blah. All of that nonsense and all of those educators, they're in it for the wrong reasons. Almost by default. And again, like most board meetings, in particular a board meeting like this, after these allegations were made public by me because the school district was attempting to hide it, the fact is that you would think that they would stay away as school employees, but they don't. They're like moths to the flame. And so again, the board members spend time reaching out to other individuals in the district and saying, come and give your end of the year presentation, or come and give us a presentation as to all the quote unquote successes that you had and whatever else. And yeah, those were probably scheduled in advance before this pedophile story came out. But even so, it doesn't matter. It's still a bad look. It makes the district look out of touch. It makes them look like, again, they're engaging in false equivalency. It makes it look like they don't care about the fact that illegality has been taking place in this district for a long time and cover-ups of this kind of behavior on numerous occasions and so on and so on. So there were lots of presentations. Again, elementary school principal gave a presentation. Another group gave a presentation where they were using DEI language and slightly manipulating it a little bit throughout their presentation. The high school's music teacher showed up and talked about all the positive presentations that he's been giving throughout the year. The FFA showed up, gave their presentation. And then again, all the teachers, not all the teachers, clearly the vast majority of the school employees didn't even show up. But it's embarrassing for the ones who did. And now we know who they are. And now everybody knows who they are. So here's the first speaker in the public comments section. This again is an individual who used to send their kids to this school district. I think they've all graduated. And now they have technology concerns. And they mention some of these concerns. And beforehand, the first voice you're going to hear is Rebecca Howard. Rebecca Howard coughs profusely throughout the entire meeting, and she blames it on her working in the garden over the week and the weekend. That's not why she's coughing. You listen to this show, you know exactly why she's hacking up a lung. I'm not going to spend any time on that. I could even give her the cure. These people are so foolish, I could give her the cure for free, which is over the counter, and she wouldn't take it. That's how blind and stubborn and dumb they are. But what she does at the beginning of this is she openly restates all of the rules for the public comments section just to remind everybody, if you think that you can say this or that, you can't. As it turns out, you can say whatever you'd like. So give her a listen, and then you'll hear the first speaker in 3, 2, 1.
Thank you, Mr. Marston. I can't wait to. I've seen the inklings of the marching band theme for the fall.
For the fall?
Yeah.
It's the show is called Desperado. It's a Western theme. It's going to be like a Western movie in the stadium
Awesome.
with a marching band.
Thank you, and thank you for the entire music staff throughout this district for everything you're doing for our kids. Like you said, music makes smart kids, or however you said it. How did you say it?
Desperado?
No,
Yes, I can't hear.
your reminder to us always that music makes kids smarter.
Oh yes, smart kids are. How did I say it? I can read it. Hang on.
Smart,
It is a pretty good one. I need to remember.
smart kids do music, and music makes kids smart.
Smart kids are good at music, and
Good at
music
music.
makes kids smart.
There you
Yeah,
go.
That's
Excellent.
Yeah. I'll fix it up. I can make it a little bit better for next year. All right.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. Before we get into public participation, since we've got such a good-sized crowd here, thank you all for coming out this evening. I want to revisit, we haven't done this for a while, some of the points from our guidelines for public attendance at board meetings. I'm not going to do all of them, just the main points here. First of all are welcome, and we appreciate the participation of community members as we conduct the business of the district. The Talawanda School District and Board of Education are committed to appropriate levels of transparency in our proceedings, decision-making processes, and communications. We ask that those in attendance please conduct yourself with decorum and civility. Please refrain from audibly commenting either agreement or displeasure in response to the content of the board discussion or in response to things that other people are saying during public participation. Such commentary can be disruptive to the proceedings. This also includes, please refrain from having extended conversations while other people are speaking. That can be disruptive to people who are trying to listen. If you need to have a conversation, please just step out into the hallway. And as always, the board reserves the right to have individuals removed for being disruptive after a reminder has been given. Our usual reminders, this is our turn to listen, your turn to talk with us. We don't respond to comments directly, though we are here to listen. Every participant has 3 minutes, and I will have a timer here on that, and I'll give you a reminder when you've got 15 seconds left. There we go. We have 30 minutes total, and I think we're going to be within that tonight. So again, thank you all for coming. Our first speaker is Susie Stein. Please also remember when you come to the microphone to state your name and your area of residence, please.
Susie Stein, and I live in Knoxville. So tonight to speak about our records request processes that are currently in place. Okay. Can you hear me now? Okay. So I came here tonight to speak about our records request processes that are in place currently. At the September 2024 meeting, the board decided to approve for legal counsel to fill public records requests to unburden the district of it. Then in January of 2025, during that meeting, the board decided to approve the contract for a redaction software to again make things easier for the district. All of these things, if I'm not mistaken, were supposed to streamline the process as well. Be wrong there, but I think that was the goal. Let's be honest, none of these things have made it a quicker process for sure. Not for the public anyway, maybe for you guys, but not for the public. They most definitely have not streamlined it at all. My public records request that I made, I've been waiting for about 5 weeks on that one. Not only this, but for us to be using legal counsel for records requests comes at a high price to taxpayers. Was that a calculated way of saying don't question us because it cost us money? I was going to request how many records requests were made for each year in the past 5 years, but I figured I probably would not get that back in time. Not a reasonable time anyway. My guess is that that number has risen drastically each year. That means that people do not trust your leadership. Even the TEA just told you at the last meeting to get your house in order. Everyone except for all of you seem to be seeing the problems. See something, say something does not seem to be working any better than the records request process when it comes to your abilities to keep things working. So that's what I'm here to tell you tonight. Thank you.
Couple of things. First of all, what's funny about the open records request stuff at the district is that they apparently claimed that they hired, or I should say bought, some kind of a filtering software that is allegedly supposed to filter through open records requests and redact everything based on what the software says to redact. I don't know if they're using it. I don't know if they're not using it. Even so, what she was just bringing up there is she's openly stating again, because they decided to make it their policy, allegedly, that they would outsource the open records request to a law firm. And that the law firm would take these, again, requested emails that the public is interested in, and then they would have their people and secretaries go through and redact all the necessary things and then send it back to the district. The district would look at it again, and then they would send it out to us. So is it making, again, talk about blame and talk about who's really to blame for all of this. Open records requests wouldn't be even requested, wouldn't be asked. We wouldn't be asking for emails. No one would, if the right thing was happening. But because the right thing isn't happening, and laws are being broken, and children are being harmed, open records requests are being made all of the time. And it's too many for them to handle. Now, I keep getting back my open records requests, and it's remarkably damning. It's remarkably damning. Let me give you an example. In the most recent one that I just received, I got back an email that was sent from the superintendent himself, Ed Thoreau, to the board members the morning of May 2nd, Friday. This was the morning that the elementary school principal, Jason Mers, was placed on paid administrative leave. In this email, Ed Thoreau openly states that all requests to change schools from a parent, any parent, again, wanting to request a change of school, goes to him, that he approves or disapproves all requests to change schools from parents, which is a formal form. He says, I never received any form from this parent, or something to that tune. I never got any request to change schools. That's a lie. Because he sent the very parent a letter on August 14th saying, your request to change schools has been denied. Signed, Ed Thoreau. So he lied to the board as a superintendent. He's lying to the public. All of this is on the record. It's in my Substack article, my latest one. And he thinks what? He's going to get away with it? I've already filed complaints against his license regarding that matter alone. And it's directly tied to a case of sexual abuse against a child. I've said it before on the show. When I'm done with him, I'm going to have his license in the palm of my hand. I'm going to wipe my ass with it and set it on fire. He doesn't belong around minors. He can't manage a multi-million-dollar corporation like this. He can't do it. Now back to her comments again that she just made to the board. Later on in the meeting, toward the end, the treasurer openly says, well, we're having to manage all of these open records requests, and I really don't want to outsource it to the law firm because it's just going to cost us too much money and blah, blah, blah. If that's the case, then why did you even state that you were going to do it in the first place? And Susie Stein, which you heard just right there, she openly said why. Did you say that you were outsourcing it because it was going to cost you more money and you're threatening people to not make open records requests because it's going to cost you more money? So don't cost us more money by making open records requests? Is that what you're asking the public? Again, these people with their actions and their words are implying their guilt. They're implying that they have more than enough to hide. Here's the next speaker. Give them a listen in 3, 2, 1.
Greg Galt, am I reading that right?
Yeah, my name's Greg Galt. I was a builder and have been in this area for 47 years, but 4 daughters through the Talawanda School. And I have 8 grandchildren, and I teach them the Bible. I'm a teacher of the Bible, a preacher of the Bible, and so I'm always watching over them. So I have 3 grandkids that do wrestling in different schools. And so I have a granddaughter that goes to Talawanda. She came running to me from the farm one day and she said, opened my door and said, Papa, I'm going to wrestle. And then she took off, come back. She goes, but I'm wrestling with girls. And she knew I wasn't going to like that. Well, I was invited to come to the league meet in the 8th grade. And so she didn't wrestle no girls. She wrestled a boy the first time, got beat early and come whimpering with her shoulder hurting. I thought, this isn't right. This isn't morally right. I don't like it. And then the next round, a kid picked her up all the way to his height and slammed her down, and she didn't move. And I come out of the bleachers, bad enough to whip everybody. It's just not right. I was saying that the whole time. She did get a concussion. And the referee said, "What are you doing here?" I said, "Well, I'm her grandpa." I said, this isn't right. I'm out to rescue her or pray for her or whatever. And so he said, "Well, that's up to her parents." I said, "Her dad's dead. I am her dad." And so the coach came over and said, "Well, next year we'll have girls." So, but just want to make this point. My favorite move as a wrestler in high school was the cradle. Go through the leg and around the neck, and once you lock, this would be a pin. My grandsons, that's their favorite move. But what would a boy do going through a young lady's crotch and handling them? 6 minutes of wrestling with sweat and heat and rubbing each other is what they do is more than an adult couple having sex. And it's immoral. It's not right. And the physicality of a boy against a girl, that is not right. And our president just said, no men in women's sports and no women in men's sports. I don't have any. I have great kids. I have national champion goat showers. They can win at the state, clean house on everything they do in animals. They're very talented, very smart. But it's my job to guard over them. That's what I'm doing here tonight. Get that fixed. Men, boys with boys and girls with girls. And she can
10
wrestle.
seconds, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My apologies on mischaracterizing that earlier. Again, he described how, apparently his granddaughter thought that she was going to be wrestling girls. Turns out that wasn't the case. And she wrestled 2 boys back to back, apparently, and got incredibly hurt. Again, good for him for standing up for her. I mean, the moment, again, that a boy would have made their way out onto a mat with the female, that should have been the end of it. Somebody should have immediately stopped that, but they didn't. This is the problem with the human mind. All of these adults watching that happen were like, well, here we go. Some people were probably laughing in the crowd like, man, this guy's going to, beat the shit out of this girl, so place your bets, everybody. And then she ends up getting seriously hurt as a result. Again, these people are disgusting, and it's the people that do nothing in the face of wrong when it's right in front of them. Those people are disgusting. There's something else I want you to pay attention to here. You heard those 2 presentations. Did you hear any applause? There's applause right at the end of Greg talking. And it's probably 1 or 2 parents or 1 or 2 individuals. The room is, it has mostly teachers in the room. They didn't applaud. Not once. No one applauds. They just sit there. Because they're zombies. But then you'll hear later again what they actually applaud. So it's not just, again, who applauds or who doesn't. Pay attention to what they're applauding for and what they're not applauding for. Now here's Scotty King, husband of board member Dawn King. And listen to what he says, again, regarding this entire district-wide email problem and how it could easily be hacked, because all of their emails are generally the same. All the student emails and logins are generally the same. Give him a listen in 3, 2, 1.
Scotty King.
I'm here as a concerned citizen to address a critical issue, which I emailed Matt Wyatt and Patrick Mead today around 8 a.m. and received no response as of 7 p.m. I did as the board requested, and still you guys choose to ignore me. The vulnerability of our school district account login systems, which uses an email and a password consistent of a 6-digit number followed by TSD. This setup is alarmingly easy to hack, and I'll explain why next 2 minutes. First, the password structure is predictable. Equation A plus B plus C plus D equals password. So A is 0 to 9. B is the student year. C is the 3-digit. It only offer 1,000 different possibilities of combination. And D is a pending TSD. To every password adds no real complexities. Hackers can use a simple brute force attack, automated program that try every possibility combination to crack the password in minutes, which allow access to all the students' accounts. Unlike complex passwords with variable characteristics, this format is still, it's just not proper. Secondly, email-based logins are often tied to students and staff name, like first name, last name at school.org. These are easy to guess or find in a public source, such as the school directory or social media. Once a hacker has the email, they only need to crack the 6-digit code, which I mentioned, and is quick work for basic hacking tools, which we actually can do in 2 apps. The risk is real. Unauthorized access to the sensitive data, like grades and personal information, could be disruptive at our school and harm our community. Stronger passwords require letters, numbers, and symbols with no predictability patterns, which will make hacking exponentially harder. Adding 2 factors of authentication, like a text code, would further secure the accounts. We must act swiftly to protect our students and staff. I urge the board to revise our login policies and implement robust cybersecurity measures. Now, little Matt. Let's address the concerns claimed by you, who boasted about securing 3 levies, cycling through 4 superintendents in 10 years. They frame this as success, but let's be clear, it's not a badge of honor. Passing 3 levies is like celebrating 3 bankruptcies, each one burning our taxpayers further, papering over deeper financial mismanagement, and 4 superintendents. That's akin to 4 divorces. Significantly unstable and a failure to foster lasting relationships. Our school deserves better than bragging about turmoil. We need a strategic plan, physical responsibility, and steady leadership, not a tally of short-term
15
wins.
seconds, please.
Lastly, I would like to make the comment. I'll be happy to stop speaking and putting in public records requests if you guys return my tax money. Thank you.
He makes great points, and he's 100% right. Number one, again, he openly admitted that he emailed 2 board members to do the thing that they wanted the public to do, which was come to them. But Scott probably had a pretty good idea that they weren't going to email him back, because these people are stupid. They say one thing and then they do the exact opposite. And so they didn't. They never emailed him back. The very next day, again on May 16th of 2025, the superintendent puts out this memo on the district's blog on the district's website. It's quite literally one of the first things you see on the main page. It says May 16th, 2025, TSD LD numbers and password concerns. He wrote, quote, during last evening's Board of Education meeting, a member of the community, Scotty King, who spoke during the public participation portion of the meeting, indicated that he had serious concerns that the district's password security system is at risk for breach. He stated that, in his assessment, the system would be, quote, easy to hack, unquote, and therefore gain access into district systems and information. He proceeded to provide an equation that he said would result in determining a student or staff member identification number or password. Although the district has no evidence that a breach has actually occurred, and the equation provided was not entirely accurate, district officials are taking this potential threat to district data seriously. The district is greatly concerned that any person/community member would attempt to break district's security systems, and even more concerned that someone would theorize publicly how one might do so. Mr. King did not contact any administrators regarding these concerns. That's a lie. Mr. King shared specifics of how one might access student information during public participation at the board meeting last evening. In an overabundance of caution, the district shut down all student and staff accounts last evening and revised login and security systems throughout the night and this morning. Students and staff have slowly been able to log into their new username and passwords throughout the day today by shutting down the system and restarting the new system today. This created issues for both student and staff and will likely continue into next week. The actions of Mr. King left staff and students without the tools to access their education. This created an unsafe security issue that disrupted all of Talawanda schools today. Do you see what he's doing here? He's quite specifically trying to get people to blame Scotty King for the district's own incompetence. Again, could have remained private. Scotty King tried to do that with them by emailing 2 board members. Those board members were to tell everybody else. Did they get the email? Yeah, they got it. Did they read it? I don't know. Did they share it with anybody else? Probably not. These people are dumb. And this is an ethics violation. And this is going to get sent to the Ethics Commission as well. You're proving with your own actions that as a school district, they're more interested in blaming the public than taking responsibility. And yet, they actually sought to fix the problem after Scotty King brought this up. So, what's the problem then? If there's no vulnerability, why are you fixing something? He goes on and says the district is concerned that behavior of this nature may encourage bad actors rather to try and breach district security systems, and are taking steps today to anticipate and deal with any future concerns. I do not condone this behavior and the bad actors who are using students and staff to perpetuate their own personal agendas. This is unacceptable. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? No one's trying to hack into your system. You're being told your system is easily hackable, so fix it. That's all they had to do. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a school district that still has open email accounts from past graduates from 7 years ago. When it comes to technology, these people are completely retarded. 2 more paragraphs. He says, it's important for the community to know that a police report was filed today. Fine. The TSD board, in a 4-1 vote, approved SROs for all schools for next year. A board member also recommended that we look at our public records and IT staffing to possibly make decisions on increasing staff to ensure cyber safety security / and meet the growing number of public records needs. TSD will meet this summer to continue to problem solve and related issues. If you're problem solving, then there's a problem, which means who's creating the problem? They think the public bringing this to their attention is the problem. That's again much like us saying, your building is on fire. It's on fire over there, and I saw who started it. And they're going, don't tell us that. This is your fault. You started the fire. You're blaming somebody else, and we think that's unacceptable. And we don't want you to tell us where the fire is. This is not how you run a multi-million-dollar corporation. This is how one fails. He wrapped up and said, if you have knowledge of any information that has been shared regarding your child, please share this information with Dr. Edward Thoreau, superintendent, at the following email address. So you want people to tell you now again. Is that right? You want people to tell you. He told 2 board members who in the last board meeting said, you need to tell us, tell us first. He did. What'd you do about it? Nothing. You didn't communicate it with anybody in the district, not at all. You didn't even invite Scotty King in to explain it to you further. You didn't even do that. It says the district believes that no information has been shared in this instance, but we need to know if these bad actors have caused additional harm. What bad actors are you talking about? You just said no one's hacked into your system. Hell, I don't know how to hack into any system. I'm not that savvy on any of this. I don't know what the hell this is about. But what bad actors are they actually talking about here? They're just making up a straw man. That's all they're doing. I deeply apologize for any inconvenience this may have caused you, your children, and our staff. In education, Dr. Edward Thoreau, Talawanda Superintendent. He lied. This memo is a lie. You just heard what Scotty King said. Scotty King has the email he sent them. It's amazing. There's something else worth mentioning here in the middle of all of this. When the truth continues to be told in the face of a lying organization, endless members of the public will come out in support of the truth. specifically individuals who have never spoken publicly. On the record. Much like the grandfather speaking about his granddaughter, he's never spoken at a board meeting to my knowledge. Same with this next speaker. Give a listen to what they say, and then, of course, give a listen as to who applauds and who does not. Who remains silent and who does not. In 3, 2, 1.
Right, Corey Fry, did I say that right?
Corey Fry, Riley Township, Ohio. Morals and ethics, 2 words I have heard multiple times over the last several school board meetings by board members. I find this very interesting how easily those words come out of some board members' mouths. It's easy to say you're ethical or moral, but much more difficult to prove it, especially when people have different standards to measure. Let me be clear, given the positions you have as board members and administrators, as parents, we, the people of Talawanda School District, continue to hold you to the highest of these standards. We trust our children's safety and well-being in you. We trust you to be fair, understanding. We trust that you will give every child an equal opportunity to the highest education. We trust you will make the right decisions on every child's behalf. All these we trust to the school district every day. I will ask the board to examine what they find ethical and moral. Are you holding those same standards to yourself? Are you holding the administrators and staff to those same standards? What happens when a student lies to their teacher or administrator? They are disciplined. However, what happens when a board member, an administrator, teacher, coach, or any other staff member lies to a parent? Well, there's where the standards seem to vary. Hear excuses like it was just a miscommunication or just misunderstood, or we will have a talk with them. Should the staff not be held to a higher standard than the students? All which I have documentation of these things happening over the last year. What happens when the school district lies and sends out an email to the staff stating a principal is out sick and they should leave him alone to rest, when in reality that principal was put on administration leave for molesting us? Why lie about that? It wasn't until after the administration or the news broke in an article by Sean Brooks that the schools decided to send out an email to the parents. This makes the school look very bad, like it's trying to cover something up. I see safe space signs all through this school, but for some students, it's far from safe. When they can't trust those who are in charge over them, it's no longer a safe place. You pick and choose the rules and policies you want to enforce, and those you want to ignore, or those you want to punish, and those you won't punish. It's no longer a safe space at that point. Not only are the practices discriminatory, it also shows at that point it's only a political agenda. Lastly, when a board member wants to go down a road of name calling and unprofessionalism at a board meeting, I hardly think that's moral or ethical. If you think any of these actions are moral or ethical, you shouldn't be a board member, a superintendent, administrator, coach, or any staff member to this school. Clearly a concerned parent.
Thank you. All right, Matt Likens, Ted Caudill.
Was there applause with any of that? Silence. Absolute silence. No applause, nothing. Student safety was mentioned, silence. The importance of telling the truth, silence. Accusations of pedophilia in your school district, silence. This is why these organizations cannot be trusted. They never should have been trusted, but they still can't be. Again, that was well done. He's 100% right. You tell everybody to trust you, and then you lie to staff members. You tell everybody that safety and security is your number one concern, and you have safe space signs all over the hallways of your school buildings, and yet that's clearly not the case either. It's about favoritism. It's about nepotism, all at the expense of children and then their families. And again, it doesn't matter if it's one child. They would write it off and say, well, we've had thousands of children come in here and they haven't been sexually abused by a principal. But just because one does doesn't mean that should somehow overshadow all the other good things that are happening. Yes, it does. That's exactly what it does. It's a trump card in a card game. If the pedophilia card gets played, it doesn't matter what other cards have been played. Now you're going to hear this. This is, I believe, one of the co-presidents of the teachers union. And again, he didn't write this. He's not that bright, but somebody else did. And I have a pretty good idea as to who it is, but it's hilarious. And then listen to the response when he's done. Give him a listen in 3, 2, 1.
Good evening, Matt Likens, TEA co-president and Oxford resident. Over the past 6 months, we've made concerted effort to bring positive news to each board meeting in order to change and challenge the distractions and stunts that have occurred. Our hope was to shed some light on what matters. Unfortunately, while good things continue to happen in the classroom across the district, a focus on the negative continues at board meetings. I could stand up and say that this negativity is being fostered by one board member in particular, whose political agenda has already harmed children, created a breach of trust with staff, and instilled a feeling we are being subjected to a vindictive witch hunt, perpetuated by others' performative outrage on social media, and fueled by accusations dressed up to look like concern. But I'm not going to say that, because even through all the games and distractions of the Google Calendar issue and Facebook posts associated with it, we teachers continue to do our jobs and make good things happen. I'm proud of my colleagues who push the politics aside. Or I could talk about the new allegation made against a long-serving and respected administrator in the district, seized on by people with no ties to the district save the desire to watch it burn. Yet another ploy to take attention away from what's important in our district. But I'm not going to go into that either, because our staff and administration are stronger than that and have navigated this mess with class. To stand up here and try to prove that some people are liars, monsters, and buffoons is exhausting, and exactly what those kinds of people want, to divide, distract, waste everyone's time, and turn the attention to themselves. So tonight, moving forward, we need to talk about what matters. Facebook and the lies spread on it doesn't matter. Hateful, homophobic, anti-Semitic podcasts by disgraced former teachers don't matter. Rambling, incoherent accusations spread by people standing up at this very microphone does not matter. Just because a clown has a megaphone, whether online or in this room, it doesn't make their message worth hearing. It just makes it louder. Just because an angry person's accusations can be amplified and exploited on social media doesn't mean those accusations are anything but the exploitation of that anger. Look in the audience. I hope you feel the burden and responsibility of the presence of the people here, because I do overwhelmingly every day. These people matter. They're real and they matter. The kids they teach are real and they matter. The community they serve is real and it matters. We're the teachers, parents, taxpayers, and residents of this community. Ignore the noise and focus on what is true and authentic and consistent. The rest doesn't deserve your attention.
Please be seated, everyone. Thank you. All right, Brooke Propenbaker.
The co-president of the teachers union just called child abuse a ploy. Accusations of serious child abuse a ploy. That it's a stunt, a witch hunt. Accusations dressed as concerns. And people think their children are safe in these environments. He's the co-president of the teachers union. And then, like sheep to the slaughter and seals at the zoo, he received a standing ovation from members who are employees of the district, school teachers, etc., union members, etc. That act alone, right there, will sink them. Moths to the flame, bugs to a bug zapper. It's amazing. Absolutely amazing. First of all, thank you for the publicity. I greatly appreciate it. I don't know who this anti-Semitism is. I've never met that person. But of course, these people don't do their due diligence, so they just use all these fake terms. You'll probably recall the episode when I went through the history of all of those terms and where they originated and who, again, created all of these terms and 1,000 other things. Homophobic. I'm not afraid of humans. That's what the term means. Homo sapien. Homophobic. Phobic. Homo. I'm not afraid of human beings. I'm not afraid of gay human beings either. I just don't want them around kids. I don't want them rubbing on kids' pants above their crotch and then pulling out their own genitals and jacking off. That's what I don't want, while restraining them in a bathroom. That's what I don't want. So who's the clown now? Again, these people are going to destroy themselves. They don't need any help. Look what's happening. They're doing it to themselves. It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. Have you ever seen these bird traps before? There's a dove trap that exists. It's absolutely incredible. You dig a hole, okay? And all you do in the hole, you just dig a hole into the ground and you make it about 2 feet deep. And then you put a piece of round wood with a pole over top of or through the wood so that it basically creates an equal swinging door. So the hole is covered with the wood, with the pole running again right over top of it. And one after another, doves will walk on top of that particular hole. They hear other doves in the hole, chirping and making the noises that doves make. But one at a time, the doves get closer and closer to the hole. They stand on top of the wood circle, and it spins, and they drop right in. And of course, they can't fly out because it closes right on top of them. So they all just keep chirping inside of this hole until the entire hole is filled with doves. This is what happens with human beings too. Human beings fall for it every single time. I told you this would happen. I told you that these people would do this because human behavior is predictable. And when you're morally sound and ethical and you know the difference between right and wrong and you're catching bad guys, catching the bad guys becomes remarkably easy because they're not that bright. What this also, I should say this too, what this also, of course, boils down to is accountability. These individuals have been operating unchecked in a sea of lies and their own comfortable delusion for their entire life and certainly their entire career. You talk about a co-president of a teachers union. Imagine what he knows. Imagine what he's let slide and what behaviors he's left go unchecked and allowed to go unchecked. It has to be just amazing behavior. Amazing in a horrible way, but that has to be the case. And then, of course, he accuses me of what? Some disgraced former teacher. Again, these people don't do their due diligence. I've written books about what went on when I taught school. It doesn't matter that there was an investigation of me in Southwest Florida. I wrote a book about it. I did an entire podcast episode about it, and you'll hear again more people screeching about me. Think of that. Think of where that energy and their focus is going. It's going to me, and it's going to anybody else who has concerns about what's going on in the district. Well, that just means they have something to hide. They're misplacing all of their energy. It's psychological projection defined. Give this next person a listen. This person is equally as unhinged in 3, 2, 1.
Brooke Propenbaker.
Hello, my name is Dr. Brooke Propenbaker. I'm the mother of a rising first grader at Kramer, and I live in the district. I'm here tonight in appreciation of the unending and often thankless work that is done to educate, care for, and support our youth. Over the past year, I've had a front row view of Kramer Elementary and the wonderful staff, teachers, and families as the fundraising chair of our PTG. I have worked closely with Mr. Mers, the front office staff, and dedicated families with the shared goal of supporting our school. I have attended many of the events that Kramer puts on, starting with the Kramer Carnival, the new and wildly successful Unplug and Play event, and ending with the Kramer Mile, with PTG meetings, classroom parties, field trips, and kindergarten fun week in between. It is clear to see the amount of time, energy, and effort our teachers are putting into our students. Our teachers care. As fundraising chair, I have witnessed the love and support from our community to help raise money for our school. Everyone I have spoken with speaks highly of Talawanda, all willing to donate to our cause. business owners whose children are going through or went through our school system, happy to give back because of what they got out, community members and families donating to Kramer through our fundraisers. Fundraising is often challenging and not fun, yet in this role, I am glad to be a representative of Kramer. Repeatedly, when asked, people step up to the plate to contribute because our community cares about our schools. I have made connections with other parents whose children are here, thriving because of the dedication, attention, and support they receive from Talawanda community. As a developmental psychologist, children's outcomes are at the top of my interests and expertise. As a member of our community for nearly 20 years, I can see across the district the Talawanda employees across the board are providing the environments that promote positive outcomes. We all want the best for our children, academically, socially, and emotionally. We share the same goals. There has been a tremendous amount of upheaval, blaming, and disruption in our district. There are people willing to broadcast their disapproval of the decisions of our school board in a destructive way. These voices are loud voices that distract from the good work that goes on and will continue to go on because our teachers and staff will continue to care about our kids. Let it be known that there are many like myself, supporters
15
who
seconds,
notice
please.
the challenges that educators are faced with, and we are thankful for the care and support our students receive. I, like many others, see all you do every day to promote positive outcomes for students. Thank you for being pillars of our community, strong examples of educators who care, and champions for our kids.
Mendy Nape.
Dr. Brooke Kropenbaker identified herself as a child developmental psychologist, and that's what a child developmental psychologist just said. Wrap your head around that one. That accusations of child abuse is a distraction. That's what she said. That fundraising is important, which, by the way, I'm glad she brought that up. That's all these schools do anymore. No wonder they can't read. They're being used as tools and pawns for fundraising, bake sales, and we ran a lap, and people gave us money and send them door to door like, I don't know, salesmen who are selling vacuums to people. It's absurd. No wonder they can't read, write, and comprehend. This is what the elementary schools have turned into. And of course, as you know, they bribe endless students to do these kinds of things. So much so that many schools across America turned all of that fundraising stuff into basically a graduation requirement, that you have to participate in the community or else you cannot graduate. You won't meet that particular requirement. We didn't have that growing up. We just did the right thing just 'cause. But we didn't fundraise for the school because I'm not a salesman and I'm not a pawn for a school district. If they can't fund their own operation, why are you sending children beating on doors to sell cookies and meat to people, among other things? Talk about a waste of time. But ladies and gentlemen, she's a child developmental psychologist. We're talking about child abuse, and she's ignoring that, complimenting the building, and even Mers himself. I would like to remind her that when individuals go to trial for such a heinous allegation or are brought up on charges, which he has to be because it can't get more obvious. There's paperwork on this, for God's sakes. That isn't even of my creation. The fact is that individuals like her can write all the letters of support they want for someone who's being charged with a sexual crime against a minor. These people are exposing themselves as not being objective They don't even know how to stay out of it because it's none of their business. They literally think it's their business. Just like, of course, they think that this is not my business, that what I do here is not my business. Why does this person who doesn't even send children to the school district care about what we do? These people don't know what world they live in. They don't understand America as a country or Americans as even their fellow citizens. They have no grasp of any of this. Again, character witnesses don't get called to testify in a court of law in a case such as this if this case moves forward, which it better. The only thing that someone like her could do is write a letter of support. But ladies and gentlemen, when a judge gets, let's say for example, just for argument's sake and just for a visual, let's say this case moves forward knowing the severity of everything that has apparently occurred. In the middle of all of this, if a judge receives 1 million letters from 1 million people, all saying that this principal was a great person, they don't believe the charges, they don't believe the parent, they don't believe the kid, they don't believe. And there's 5 written documents that prove that this happened, including video testimony of the child themselves, describing this right down to an absolute detail. It's not going to matter how many millions of letters of support you write. That isn't evidence. What it actually is, however, is it's evidence of your ability to not pay attention to your surroundings. It's evidence of your rationalization skills. It's evidence of your psychological projection and your complete dismissive behavior of the very people, minors, for which you are legally responsible for protecting all of the time, no matter what, in loco parentis. They don't know this. Again, that right there again, you talk about people selling homeschooling and home learning for free to the public. Unsolicited advertising for home learning and homeschooling. I mean, oh my God, they're doing it. And I hope they know this because it's happening. The public is listening to this. They're hearing exactly what they're saying, and you're convincing them to never attend this school district ever again. It's the best homeschooling commercial you can possibly have. A teachers union president, a school psychologist, I don't know if they're a school psychologist, I don't know if they work in the district or not, I don't care. If they do, it's even worse. But a child developmental psychologist calling all of that a distraction and a ploy. Unbelievable. But it isn't. It's very believable because these are brainwashed humans. And then, like I said earlier, the random applause. Just astounding. Do these people not know that when you applaud, that means you're supporting what the person said? I mean, do they not even know that you're associating with everything that the person said because you're applauding? And that some of these people are actually on camera? Now here's Mindy Napier. She ran for school board a few years back. She lost. I voted for her. Concerned citizen. Knows what's going on. Give her a listen in 3, 2, 1.
Mindy Napier.
Name's Mindy Napier. I live in Milford Township. I'm here tonight to address the language and behavior of Mr. Matt Wyatt at our last meeting. I believe it's crucial that we as a community hold our elected officials accountable for their behavior, especially when it falls far short of the respect and decorum we expect. During the last meeting, Mr. Wyatt engaged in behavior that was frankly unacceptable. His interactions with fellow board members, Ms. King in particular, were quite troubling. He spoke to her in a manner that was dismissive, condescending, and openly disrespectful.
This kind of behavior is not only unprofessional, but it also creates a hostile environment that hinders productive discussion and effective decisions. We need board members who can engage in constructive dialogue, even when they disagree. Mr. Wyatt's behavior was the antithesis of that. How many temper tantrums does the community have to witness from our male board members? Sadly, this problem extends beyond the treatment of Miss King. Mr. Wyatt, in a fit of anger, chose to lash out at the members of the community also. He described us as deeply offensive terms as trifling, half-wits, and fool. Let's be clear what these words mean. Trifling means worthless, insignificant, or frivolous. Call someone trifling is just their concerns, their contributions, and their very existence is unimportant. Half-wit, derogatory, implying someone is unintelligent or mentally deficient. It's a slur used to demean and insult a person's cognitive ability. Fools suggest someone is easily deceived, lacking judgment, or simply ridiculous. While it might seem less harsh than other terms, it still carries the sting of contempt and belittles the person being labeled. These words are not just casual insults, they're loaded with negative connotations and represent a profound lack of respect for the individual Mr. Wyatt is supposed to be representing. To label community members, parents, teachers, taxpayers as trifling half-wits is not only offensive, it's a betrayal of his duty as a school board member. It demonstrates a contempt for the very people he is meant to serve. We cannot tolerate this kind of language and behavior from our elected officials. It creates a toxic environment, discourages community involvement, and undermines the trust that is essential for functioning. I'm pretty sure I sat up here last month and had the same discussion about Mr. Mead, and that got nowhere. Mr. Mead finished off the meeting last month by telling Mr. King to stand up and be a man. So I'm just trying to figure out where the decorum is, because nobody's saying that we don't respect the teachers. No one's saying that we don't respect the district. Everyone's just trying to hold everyone to the
15
same
seconds, please.
standard. And it, as the gentleman in the orange spoke, said, there is not the same standard for the students as there is for the board or the staff. Thank you.
Again, she's 100% right. And one or two people applaud. Again, she's pointing out their hypocrisy. She's saying, you say this and then you do this. Does no one else see this? It's painfully obvious. And yeah, Matt Wyatt said all of that. And then what did Matt Wyatt do? At the end of the board meeting, he denied ever calling anybody trifling people or this, that, or the other. And Pat Mead actually apologized, although it was hilarious what happened at the end of the board meeting, which I'll just describe now. At the end of even though I have more public comments to play here, at least one other one. At the end of the board meeting, one at a time, they started going through, again, their own board comments, policies, procedures, whatever else. And then they all just started rambling and talking. And Pat Mead just kept talking and talking and talking. And we do great things here, and we do great things, and don't pay attention to this, that, or the other. We do great things. Anytime somebody says don't pay attention to something, that's exactly what you're supposed to be paying attention to. If somebody says don't look behind that curtain, or don't open up that bathroom door, or don't walk in there, you probably should. In particular, if they're a school employee, you should probably have a look. He ultimately ends up, Pat Mead does, apologizing, allegedly. I mean, it's not to be believed clearly, but he apologizes to Scotty King for calling him out. He goes, that was unprofessional of me, and blah, blah, blah. It's like, okay. And apparently, in the last board meeting, I was out of the building and long gone by this particular point, but allegedly, Scotty King and him made physical contact as they were walking out of the building, or something along those lines, tripped on each other, or a shoe got stepped on, or something. And so what they do is they actually, as an entire board, vote to basically keep Scotty King away from other employees. That he's not to talk with any other employees or any other board members or anything along those lines. That he's still allowed to come to the board meetings and he's allowed to talk. But that he needs to basically just, keep his distance. And if he doesn't, well, then criminal charges might come after the fact. It seems a bit odd only because, again, they seem to care more about that than they do a school principal who's been accused of molesting a child and jacking off in front of him while restraining him. See the hypocrisy? Not to mention, what if a board member approaches Scotty King, not the other way around? Then what? What will they say? Well, they're pathological liars. So they'll say something like, Scotty King approached me and he's not supposed to, and that's the way that it happened. And he would be like, no, they approached me and started to talk to me, so what gives? I mean, these people are, they can't be helped. They can't be helped. I wouldn't have them babysit a child, let alone run a multi-million-dollar corporation. And then again, at the end of the board meeting, Matt Wyatt lies, and he openly says again that I didn't call anybody that, and I certainly didn't mean anybody specific. And it's like, yeah, you did. I mean, he called me a loser, but I don't care. Sticks and stones will break my bones. Words will never hurt me. These people can call me whatever they want. I'm not concerned with it. You talk about a distraction, it's the name calling. That's the distraction. We have facts. I have facts. Facts exist. And the people who need the facts to prosecute or to testify against people in court, they have facts. Everything else that happens out here about, well, you should trust me just 'cause, that's not a fact. That has nothing to do with the case at hand. Apparently, Matt Wyatt, interim board member, no one really voted for him. No one did vote for him. He took over for the last degenerate who left because he got caught violating FERPA and wanting to violate FERPA, along with, of course, soliciting money to pay himself back $5,000 for Super Bowl tickets from school employees. I mean, hello, people. Either way, he took to social media and started making fun of Mindy Napier for mispronouncing a word in her speech. Who cares? Again, it's showing you what they're willing to focus on, and the psychological projection, and the dismissal, and the rationalization. They're not focusing on the thing that matters. They're literally wasting their time taking to social media to make fun of a public speaker who shows concern about what's really going on. And then what do? They make fun of the way that they pronounce a particular word or mispronounce a particular word. That's how petty and shallow they are. They're defining this for everyone with a brain to see. But for the brainwashed, they're hopeless. And speaking of the brainwash, ladies and gentlemen, I will introduce to you now, I believe, the final speaker, if I'm not mistaken, a Holly Hansel, the Director of Communications for Talawanda School District. You can't make this one up. Give her a listen in 3, 2, 1.
Am I seeing this right, Holly Hansel?
Holly Hansel, lifelong resident of Talawanda School District and the Communications Director. I'd like to introduce some information into the record of this meeting, which I'm also providing to the TSD Treasurer, the official records keeper, and members of the board. Number 1, a series of documents from the State of Florida's Education Practices Commission from 2011 to 2015, which outlines a settlement agreement between the institution and Sean Brooks. It includes documentation of unprofessional, unethical behavior, a letter of reprimand, disciplinary action in the form of ethics training, probation, and a fine for infractions that led to his resignation. Number 2, a resolution in 2018 from the State of Ohio BOE, which revokes Mr. Brooks' teaching license in Ohio and also permanently makes him ineligible to apply for a license, permit, or certificate issued by the Ohio State Board as a result of the discipline in Florida. Mr. Brooks is also the host of an FM podcast titled American Education. In a June 2024 episode, Mr. Brooks shares false information as well as denigrates multiple school officials and school board members. He also indicates that he's actively trying to gather confidential information about a minor-age child, which is not only inappropriate, it is illegal. The podcast serves as a how-to manual for attacking school personnel with the goal of ruining their reputations with false allegations and making them unemployable in the education industry. He specifically states that by always using the word allegedly, there is protection under free speech laws, while simultaneously disparaging and casting doubt on anyone he and his cronies choose to. I'm providing in the documents a transcript of the podcast and the platforms that host it. I'd like to share excerpts where he is referring to school personnel, school board members, and also indicates he's providing advice to Don and Scotty King. Number one, the thing that citizens can do, and I've explained how to do this on the show, is you have to make these people unemployable. You have to make it so when anybody looks at them on the internet, their resume is immediately thrown in the trash by an HR department. Number two, you can't come up here and defame my character. Sure we can. I can come up there and accuse you of being a pedophile if I want to. I can get up there and accuse you of other things. And I can say allegedly as the day is long. Number three, he hasn't learned that Scotty King's not finishing, that we are not finishing. There's been a great deal of discussion in this community and in our schools in regard to this district's practices, policies, school leaders, staff, employee conduct, district information systems,
15
both
seconds,
public
please.
and confidential information. Much of these discussions has taken place on social media, where all citizens should be careful to make sure that the information sources they believe have credibility and integrity. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for your participation.
Lifelong resident, lifelong of the Talawanda School District and resident of the town. Lifelong. Never left. Here her whole life. So she says. I don't know. I don't care. That's sad. That's sad. Doesn't surprise me she'd be the communications director. It's a perfect position. She's exactly what they're looking for. She will support them no matter what. Again, that wasn't written by her. She didn't write that. All of what she just read was written by former board member David Bothist, probably a couple of other nitwits, and that's about it. Because what that just proved is the following, and you know this because you listen to the show or you've read my publications or what have you. Or maybe you've even met me. The fact is that she's the communications director for a school district and she doesn't do her own due diligence. If she did her due diligence, she would know the answers to all of those accusations that she just made. And all of those particular times regarding those particular moments in my life that she just made. But she doesn't. She doesn't get into any specifics. These people don't like accountability. That's all she just proved. They've never had something like this before. This is a first of its kind. A podcast that covers generally 3 separate subjects and how they all interconnect 3 days a week, and I just so happen to be in this town with this show. The funny part is because, of course, they don't do their due diligence. I've had this show long before, of course, any of this even came up, but they don't know that. And they certainly don't listen to it, and they certainly don't pay attention. And if they do listen to it, well, they're not comprehending what's being said. That's not my problem. But you can't buy that kind of publicity. I mean, I would just like to personally thank Holly Hansel, the director of Talawanda, for actually advertising my show. It's called American Education FM, by the way, but whatever. You got that wrong too. Because you got most of it wrong. I didn't settle with Florida. I was a whistleblower. You don't know what that means. You can't spell whistleblower, so don't even bother. I wrote a book about it, which of course you won't read. Did a 2.5-hour podcast episode on all of it, which you won't read. And to my left, actually, in my filing cabinet right here, I have the entire false investigation of them against me because I caught them doing what? In my former working environment as a school teacher of 9 years. Yes, you guessed it. Sexually grooming minors. Physically abusing students. In school buildings, the one where I worked, and the ones, plural, the 2 where I worked in the same district, and those 2 buildings happened to be right next door to each other. And guess who covered it up? School teachers, union representatives, and administration, and then the HR department as well. Oops. See the parallel here? Can't you figure out that Jesus is real? You don't actually think that he took me through what I experienced and showed me what I was shown by him, by his own hand. If number one, he didn't know that he had a plan for me, and that part of that plan would be essentially to watch hell rain down on children by government, to then only come back to this town, have nothing to lose, and then hold individuals accountable by educating the public about how they actually operate. Those who scream the loudest have the most to hide. I have zero to hide. I never even taught in the state of Ohio. It was retribution. Somebody down in Florida said, well, I think he moved back to Ohio, so I'll contact the state of Ohio and we'll get his license taken away. I've been over the whole story before. I let the certificates run their course. I let them expire because I didn't want them anymore. It wasn't that I couldn't teach. It was that I didn't want them. And as far as the state of Ohio is, which, by the way, again, I didn't pay any fine in Florida. They were like, you can still teach here, no problem. You just have to pay whatever it is, $250, take an ethics course, and then have your administrator sign off on this piece of paper. And I went, no. I don't want to live here anymore. I don't want to do this anymore. I've seen exactly what you people are capable of. I want nothing to do with it. I wanted a PhD. I wanted to write books. I wanted to, again, tell people about how bad this business is. Then I came to Ohio, same thing. They were like, you're being investigated. And I was like, I'm not even teaching. I'm in graduate school. What the hell's going on? And then I was like, oh, okay, retribution, no problem. Because I understand what retribution is about. I mean, I get it. I witnessed it happen in the working environment when I was working myself, and then I was a victim of it. No problem. I understand how the whole process works. But these people don't know that, or they do know that, and they're very afraid. And I could teach in Ohio if I wanted to, by the way. But like I said, they were like, well, you got to take an ethics course, and then you got to pay a fine, $250 or whatever it is, and then you have to have an administrator sign off. I said, I'm not teaching in Ohio. I haven't applied anywhere. I'm not interested. It's not happening. And they were like, oh, well, okay, we'll just take your license then. I went, okay, fine. It's already expired. You can't take something away from me that I don't want and that is already expired. It's like stealing a rotten carton of milk from me. Sean, we're taking this away from you, and if you want to drink out of it, then you're going to have to, but you're going to have to pay us and then, take a milk ethics course and blah, blah, blah. That was actually the most laughable part of the whole thing with Ohio, was they wanted me, of all people, to take an ethics course. I said, I've written books about ethics. I actually told the guy over the phone. I said, I've written books about ethics in education. Do you want me to send you my books? And he goes, what? And I went, yeah. And I just got done with graduate school. I said, I have a PhD in education. I took ethics courses. They were introductory courses at the graduate level. So what do you want from me? The fact is the business does not want whistleblowers in it. Why? Because they're abusing fucking children. It's that simple. It's that simple. The business doesn't want whistleblowers. Just like Talawanda doesn't want somebody with a show who's more knowledgeable than they are about the entire process. They hide rights from people as a school district. And then they don't want people knowing what their rights are. So I remind people what their rights are. I tell them that they have the right to hold people accountable who work in these school districts. And they don't like that, which means what? It means they have something to hide. These people out themselves without any help. Sometimes they need a little push from the public to make a complaint or anything, an allegation or a publication or anything. That's all they need. And then watch them just flip out. And then Rebecca Howard, the president of the school board, acted like that was a surprise. Am I reading this right? Holly Hansel? Geez, she's an employee here in our director of communications. Why would she want to speak? They all knew she was going to speak. It was scripted. Let's go after Sean Brooks. Not, let's defend children from pedophiles. See what I mean? I think thus endeth the lesson for this particular episode. They don't need our help. They out themselves as not caring. It's called a comfortable delusion for a reason, because for them, it's comfortable. But when you show them the truth, or you upend even their comfortable delusion, they lose their minds. This is a common human behavior among individuals who do not want to face facts, or do not want to believe that the world that they think exists doesn't really exist. So like she said, yeah, not going anywhere. They can bring all their players to the game that they want. It doesn't matter. They're actually providing unsolicited commercials and advertising for home learning and for why you should not go to Talawanda. People sending their children to Talawanda isn't my choice. That's their choice. I'm not a parent, don't have children, wouldn't send my kids to public school if you put a gun to my head. But what they're doing here is, again, they're proving that this is an unsafe place with their own actions. Again, who was applauding? Why were they applauding? What for? And then who wasn't applauding when other people were speaking, and what were they saying? It's too revealing. And it's disturbing. One last thing. When she actually said, Holly Hansel, that communicating with a parent who has a concern about the district, or communicating with a minor, their child, who has a concern about the district, that would somehow be, what did she say, unethical, immoral, and or illegal, she's lost her mind. She's trying to tell people that communicating with parents about their children potentially or actually being abused in a school environment could be a crime. She's nuts. Conversations are not illegal. Only a communist would say such a thing, let alone believe such a thing. So yeah, not going anywhere. You got that right. Thanks for listening as always, everybody, and I'll catch you on Wednesday. Peace. Thank you for listening to American Education FM. Make sure and check out AmericanEducationFM.com for more information. Take care and God bless.